as of late, SpaceX, Google, Amazon, NVIDIA have all spoken about putting up orbital data centers over the past month as part of their plans for the next 2 or 3 years. And beyond that as well, like when we look at some of the academic surveys that are out there, we're defining the architecture and the challenges and the research needs of orbital edge computing. And it's a super young field, but with it as well, it's becoming very real because lots of capital is now going to be backing this very concept. So there's a lot of room for African researchers to help shape its foundations. I just wanted to put out these couple of pictures here. On the left, there's myself with Charles Bolden, who was the NASA administrator during Obama's years. And this was taken about 8 years ago. And then on the right was me and the Director General Joseph Ashbesher, who is the head of the European Space Agency. And this was taken a few months ago in Sydney during the IAC. Now, I bring this because I've been very much ingrained in sort of getting to understand this ecosystem and understand the needs of orbital edge computing and the space industry for a while now. And now it's time to act. Now, when we think about cloud on the ground, like it gives us, of course, lots of scale, lots of power, right? But cloud in orbit gives us much more reach, speed, and global visibility, so you can get real-time insights on the edge instead of waiting to first downlink the data, right? So I don't intend on replacing, at least in my opinion, this field will not replace ground systems entirely, right? But what it will do is make satellite systems a lot more efficient, because the orbit side can handle immediate insights, and the ground will handle heavy processing, like after the fact. And you put both of them together and you get the full picture as well. Now, this is where I try to bridge the gap between the different keynotes. From my understanding of 6G, I believe the aim of Open 6G is to create these inclusive and programmable networks. And so cloud in orbit will then extend that overall vision by giving the network a presence above the Earth. So it helps reach unconnected populations, reduces traffic on ground networks, et cetera, et cetera. So for Africa, this is super important, right? It means with our finite resources, the promise of Open 6G can reach places that these terrestrial ground networks will never actually cover, because it might not make immediate economic sense and might not have the financial backing to make that happen. Now, when we think about some of the breakthroughs that we've had, FISAT-1 was one of them as well. It sort of was a system that used AI on board satellites to identify different cloudy images and discard them well before downlink, thereby pre-processing data and saving folks hundreds of thousands of dollars in downlink capacity. So that one simple act really reduced bandwidth waste and allowed faster delivery of super useful imagery. And that's actually the core argument that we're making for cloud in orbit, where we can process data before it becomes a burden to do so. Now, a disaster response. I live in California, so this is something that happens on a sort of yearly basis. We have massive fires, for example, in Pasadena and in Los Angeles. And Africa is actually no different, right? Although it's such a large landmass that we often don't get the coverage, and I'm talking about news coverage and information coverage, to understand that there are floods happening in Africa. There are cyclones raging. I was actually caught in a cyclone once in Mauritius. And there are wildfires that are going up. I remember when I lived in Cape Town, there's a point when Table Mountain was actually on fire, right? And the idea here is early detection of all of these disasters will save lives. So if we've got AI in orbit, satellites can identify a lot of these hazards almost immediately. We don't have to wait for a ground station pass in order to be able to do so. We can trigger alerts and relay their data over to other satellites and get those alerts down to the ground as soon as possible, while still covering 100% of affected regions. So For me, the sort of emergency disaster response is probably one of the most compelling reasons to develop orbital compute, and it's one of the main reasons that I took a real avid interest in this as well. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about my background because it will help us explain a little bit on the direct-to-cell side. So, my background is in mechanical engineering and space systems engineering. I went to the University of Cape Town for my mechanical engineering undergrad, and I did a postgrad in business management. Thereafter, I worked for Tesla as their third employee in Africa across the renewable energy market. And in particular, I actually ended up focusing in on the telecommunications market, where we were replacing lead acid batteries and diesel gensets with Tesla Powerwall lithium-ion battery cells. Beyond that, I worked for Google for 5 years across Europe, and then eventually in the US, where I was initially in advertising sales, and then cloud engineering, and then finally in startups and artificial intelligence. And while I was doing that, I started doing a master's in space systems engineering at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, or in Maryland. And then quit my job at Google and joined SpaceX as a product manager for Starlink. And of course, SpaceX has been pushing to pioneer direct-to-cell or direct-to-device, direct-to-phone services for the last few years, along with some of the competition from Apple and a bunch of other folks who are pushing this, like AST Space Mobile, for example. Now, I tell you that to give you a sense of why I believe this is a key idea for us to focus on, right? When we look at the direct-to-phone satellite connectivity, it's becoming more and more real, right? It works with normal phones. You don't need any special hardware. And it's a real game changer, potentially, for some of the most rural communities that are out there, if they're able to adopt this without needing any cell towers, right? But in order for us to do this, we've got to have an intelligent network, right? So in-orbit compute, in my opinion, then, ensures the satellite does way more than just relay data. It'll filter data, cache it as needed, optimize, and help users directly in an autonomous fashion in orbit. Now, some of the industries that I think about here that really depend on coverage and real-time data include maritime, aviation, mining, security, and autonomous systems. Some of them operate like far from a bunch of terrestrial networks. You often find real outages like in the middle of the ocean, in aviation, etc., right? So the idea for orbital edge compute then is for us to enable better route optimization. So monitoring and total automation as well. So the goal here is to support secure, sovereign, and local decision-making in sensitive industries that need access to this real-time data, this real-time connectivity as well. And coincidentally, some of the work that I'm doing with NASA at the moment is specifically focused on autonomous quality of service of high-rate delay tolerant networks as well, that ends up being more applicable in sort of deep space, but it actually has also some terrestrial and sort of local use cases that we can extract from it. So when we think about the architecture we're building, I want to be able to do a few things, right? We want users to be able to connect into a terrestrial 6G RAN, and then the data flows into the 6G core, right? Into the core network. From there, this network will connect to an NTN gateway and then to satellites with in low Earth orbit with compute. They then will process a lot of this data quickly, and they'll either send this data back back to Earth, or they'll share this with the other satellites. Yes, sorry? Okay, and they'll share this with other satellites as well. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. I'm hearing some feedback, but I think I'll just continue it.
Yes, you can proceed. I think we lost you for a second there. You can proceed.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just start this slide back again, right? So the architecture that we're trying to build towards is where users can connect into a terrestrial 6G RAN. This data will then flow into the 6G core network, which feeds into an NTN gateway, and then gets into a loop with the LEO satellites that have compute, and they then are able to feed into other satellite systems, as well as to ground cloud and platforms as well, right? So the satellites themselves will pre-process the data quickly and make autonomous decisions as to where this data needs to go, right? The cloud platforms, their job is to integrate the results, and we want to send only the most important and useful data down to the ground, which tends to be about maybe 10% of the data that's actually collected in orbit, right? So it's a full loop that blends the overall ground networks as well and orbit, and there's probably room to talk about the different gateways and ground systems that would be integrated here. Now, we know that space is a super harsh environment, right? Satellites have limited power, they're constrained, radiation affects electronics just in general, right? And radiation hardening is one of the most important fields in space engineering. And then there's thermal constraints that limit the size of processors in orbit. And this overall means that orbital AI must be small, efficient, and resilient. It drives innovation in model compression and hardware design as well, because you have so many factors that you've got to think about as you're building for in-space communication and in-space processing. Now, in orbit, software is actually what defines what orbital computers can do. And this is why I say Africa has an opportunity to make several leaps as other folks really try to build out orbital data centers. We can do a lot more ourselves, right? So the containers, the containerization sort of models as well, they allow small workloads. And the lightweight orchestration that comes about as a result of this, whether it be Dockerized or Kubernetes, etc. This makes sure that tasks are moving super effectively and efficiently. Then we look at sort of the fault-tolerant designs, which is obviously super essential because there are no field technicians in space, right? So we need to make sure that we have as efficient a system as possible that's designed to not fail, or at least have the lowest risk of failure possible. So this entire stack is an active research opportunity. And each slide of this stack, or each piece of this cake, I think is something that any one of us can take apart and make our own and decide to really zone in on as well. It's an active research opportunity in general. Now, to tie it back into 6G, what we want to be able to do is to use the 6G slicers to allow different applications to receive guaranteed performance levels, right? So we can have an emergency slice that can take overall priority across both terrestrial and orbital layers as well. Sorry, I noticed I've reused this graph here. I've got the wrong graph here, but anyways, no problem. A consumer slice can then use leftover capacity, right? And what we can do here is end up having a really life-saving communication mechanism that remains reliable even during peak loads. And there's a few processes that we're actually developing directly with NASA that solves for this in particular, right? So what we want is to make orbit an extension of service quality and not just coverage. Now, reliability and testing, of course, also super important. And I know that the power community has super robust tools like hardware-in-the-loop systems to test faults and real-world behavior as well. Well, satellite constellations in orbit also need similar infrastructure, right? We need digital twins, constellation emulators, and fault simulation before hardware ever launches. I've actually got a test bed in my living room right now back in California that we actively use from all around the world that my team uses to actually do a lot of our reliability testing. So this connects directly to the keynote on power, hardware in the loop, I hope, right? We shall see what they have to say tomorrow. Yeah. And then when we look at the overall market as well, space edge computing is not necessarily the largest market in the world right? But it's strategically significant. If you do some research in this field, you will notice that militaries, defense, Earth observation, connectivity, climate services, all want to take a look at space edge computing or are actively working on it as a way to make sure that they are as resilient as possible. So revenue in this market will grow significantly into the billions and potentially trillions of dollars. But I believe the true value lies in sovereignty, which we lack in many areas across sub-Saharan Africa, in total resilience and ability to detect any threats or detect any issues and anomalies, and the total performance of our economy and of folks' ability to be as efficient as possible. So we've got to make sure that we are as sustainable as possible, and so in-orbit compute has specific benefits. We have less backhaul, we more efficiently use solar energy and there's less wastage, but we also have to think about some of the concerns, including launch emissions and space debris accumulation that happens as a result of this. I believe that Africa can champion responsible space infrastructure right from the very beginning. Now, Africa is actually already quite active in space. About, I believe, 21 out of 55 African countries are currently spacefaring in that they have at least one satellite, have launched at least one satellite into orbit. Also, earlier this year was the inauguration of the African Space Agency, which is led by Dr. Kiliane Ouattara, who you see here pictured with me during that inauguration of the African Space Agency earlier this year in Egypt. And after the African Space Agency would coordinate, it's intended to coordinate our continental efforts in general. More countries are launching more and more satellites, and Earth observation is already supporting agriculture, climate, water, etc. In terms of the overall planning of these systems. So I believe that Cloud in Orbit will directly have an impact on all the systems that we're putting together across sub-Saharan Africa and all of the missions for the African Space Agency. It will strengthen all of these missions and have significantly positive impacts for us going forward. Furthermore, I want to talk a little bit about research and research momentum in general. So I believe there's plenty of African universities that are investing in space and AI and communications research. So I know that there's 60 laboratories emerging across the continent, and open toolkits and shared research infrastructure that lower the barrier to working on these global challenges are being developed more and more. So I believe there's never been a better time than now to build expertise, especially as information becomes so much easier for anyone to be able to have access to it. Pictured here with me to the left, also during the inauguration of the African Space Agency, is Brigadier Hilary Kipkoski, who is actually the Director General of the Kenyan Space Agency and who we signed a memorandum of understanding with. And to his right is actually the founder of Space in Africa, who held the inauguration of the African Space Agency, as well as the New Space Africa Conference right after. And the director of that is Timidayo Onioso. Now, the reason I bring them up, especially Timidayo, he's just received his PhD specifically in space studies as well. And these are folks who are dedicated to not just looking at space from the perspective of economics, but also from research and how it can actually impact Africa. And so there's a lot of work being done in that as we speak. So we spoke about some of the use cases in brief, but to be more direct about them, some of the most compelling applications of orbital compute are specifically for Africa. We look at agricultural yield, water distribution, medical supply chains, natural disaster response, we have real problems that require creative solutions. So, in my opinion, orbital compute is not theoretical. It is super practical for our overall use cases. And we've got plenty of advantages. You've heard them all before. We've got a young and super ambitious population. We've got unique environmental and urban data that we can train for like many of our models. I was at a conference a couple of days ago where they said that only 2% of all model training across a lot of the sort of AI models is African, which makes no sense. So folks are going to make decisions about us without any information about us, right? We also in Africa have fewer legacy systems that are holding us back and constraining us. And we've got a pretty rich culture of innovation driven by real need, not just innovation for innovation's sake. So I believe these advantages position us in Africa to lead cloud in orbit, because when it's driven by real need, rather than greed, I think you actually end up with a much more compelling product. Now, this brings me to my startup, Satellite. So I am the founder and CEO of Satellite. For those of you who don't remember, my name is Rama Ochieng Afulo, right? And what we do at Satellite is we build edge computing for space. Our goal is to help satellite operators use satellite resources better and monetize the excess resources in orbit. We reduce the total latency of these systems. We cut unnecessary downlinks and emissions. And our mission is to turn satellites themselves into virtual data centers in space using our software. Our overall architecture, just on a super high level, is and how we fit into the overall ecosystem, is that users will initially generate data, right? And then the ground and satellite networks will deliver it across sort of ground and space. Then our satellite system, our satellite network will process this data and orchestrate these workloads across different satellite networks and across different ground stations. And then the operators and applications can receive direct insights where there's low latency as possible. So we're building the platform layer for orbital compute globally and not just for Africa. And that, I think, helps us bring some real insights from across the world as we start to do this. We're one of only 47 companies this year that were awarded a NASA STTR grant, and that actually allows us to be able to have NASA-backed R&D be the basis for creating this ecosystem, and also creating a standardized communications protocol for satellite systems in orbit to be able to cross-communicate with each other. So let's think about a day in 2030, 5 years from now. Let's say that there's a potential event. Let's say a flood. A flood is forming in Southern Africa due to global warming, right? One of these satellites within this network then detects the rising in sea levels, and then this AI on board, instead of having to first send the data down, will analyze the scene instantly. It sends an alert to responders, like immediately within seconds, and we get these immediate insights. And we don't have to wait for a ground pass. Straight to a phone, right? Cloud in orbit, from my assessment, creates this timeline. This is well within reach, where you can have actionable insights, and you can take action almost immediately as those things start to happen, rather than risk losing millions and millions of lives in the long run. So I would love for African researchers to really help shape this field in collaboration with the African Space Agency and different telcos and internet service providers and regulatory bodies and the like. And we want to partner with you to do that. There's room for work in model compression, 6G integration, hardware in the loop for constellations, orbital operating systems, and sustainability, amongst others. So we welcome student collaborations and shared proposals and joint investigations. In fact, we are currently working in a joint fashion with NASA and the University of Houston on some in-depth research to this ilk that will take us the next couple of years to complete, as well as working with UC Berkeley on a couple of capstone projects focused on edge AI processors, as well as hardware in the loop for constellations. I would love to actually start partnering with African universities as much as I possibly can also. And it's well worth noting that my entire team is not just African. My entire immediate full-time team is Kenyan. My head of engineering, my CTO is Kenyan, I'm Kenyan, and we've got 2 junior engineers who are also from Kenya. So I believe in terms of the industry as well, there's space for telcos, Earth observation companies, governments, startups to all participate within this ecosystem, even a whole bunch of different global labs. So if you're building networks, any satellites, analytics, or any climate tools, this space will definitely affect you and be applicable. At Satellite, we're ready to collaborate with any partners who want to explore orbital compute in any meaningful fashion. So in conclusion, I believe now is the moment. Africa shaped the very early development of communications research through pioneers, shout out to Prof. Tom Afulo, and many of you who are here. We've now had the chance to, we now sit in a position where we've got the opportunity to influence the next generation of infrastructure. Cloud is moving up and into the sky, and orbit is becoming intelligent. So let's build together, and please connect with me. I think that there is much that we can do here, and there's much that we can learn from each other. And if we do this right, we'll set ourselves up for a beautiful future. Thank you very much.
You had a good rest yesterday, and we are looking forward to the interesting program today in this conference. And it's my pleasure to welcome you now to the industry workshop organized by IEEE Region 8 Action for Industry Committee. We will be having very interesting discussions and the participation of experts from the industry, from university, from IEEE, from NGOs, so stay tuned. So this is the program at a glance. We will be starting with these welcome remarks I'm giving today now. Then we will be joined by John Matogu to tell us more about the role of IEEE Action for Industry Committee. He is the past chair of the committee. Then there will be an expert from Vodacom. He is Kobus Stoder, the executive head of international markets at Vodacom, and he will be talking to us about empowering Africa's digital future through the recently completed subsea cable project. So it's about the subsea cables connecting Africa. This project is connecting 33 countries, so it's really amazing to talk today about what is it all about. Then at the end, we will be talking in a panel discussion led by Aida Saban from IEEE Region 8 Action for Industry Committee, and joined by a distinguished group of experts from the academia, Professor Ahmed Hassan Youssef, president of El Suwaidi University of Technology in Egypt, and John Matogu, and Neti Letsaulu, founder and director of Mogalidi Foundation and ambassador for Limpopo province. Okay, so to this end, I would like to welcome John Matogu to the stage, so please join me. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. Thank you, Mohammed, for the introduction, and for also to the committee that is putting together the AFRICON this year. As Mohammed mentioned, my name is John Matogo. I am part of the Action for Industry committee. Now, Action for Industry is a Region 8 committee, an ad hoc committee that was established now almost about 10 years ago, and I'll share with you some of the intentions at the time. In IEEE, I've been a member now for about 14 years, now a senior at IEEE. I've been a past chair in the Kenya section. I'm Kenyan. I've been a chair in the Kenya section 2014-2015, and also been involved in the Action for Industry Committee since it was founded back in 2015, and been involved in organizing various activities within IEEE. Actually, the last AFRICON that was in Kenya, I was part of the organizing team, and I was involved in the industry linkages and also in fundraising for the conference. So the point where I'm sharing some of this is really to mention to you some of the opportunities for you as IEEE members to get engaged as volunteers as well. So the objective of my presentation today, in addition to sharing with you what Action for Industry is all about, is to hopefully encourage you to not only become members of IEEE, but also to become active volunteers. I'm also in the industry, so I work at IBM, and I lead our corporate social investment programs in Africa and the Middle East region. Okay. So, very quickly, as IEEE, why are we here? And this is just to remind you, and then for those who are joining today, some of this was covered yesterday by colleague Humphrey in the presentation of what IEEE is all about, right? So the idea is to, inspire engineers, young students who are joining the profession, the industry, and also for professionals who are in the industry to continue engaging with IEEE. And we do this through various means. There, as you saw yesterday, there are a number of interest groups, committees that you could join within IEEE, where you find a home based on your interest and your profession. So and joining it is very simple. You just log on to IEEE.org/join and, pick and choose what is of interest to you and you are in there. But I want to pause here and just mention, the value that you draw from IEEE is also sort of, in a way, related to how much you are able to put into IEEE, because it's one of those organizations where the more you get involved, the more value you actually draw from this type of engagement. So again, the call here, try and figure out within IEEE, it's a large organization, what is of interest to you and how can you then get involved in it. Some quick facts for those who are not in here yesterday. Large professional organization, largest technical professional organization. So, many members this year. In October, we're celebrating a milestone, 500,000 members, which is quite an achievement. And, it's a global organization. So when you get into IEEE, you get to engage with colleagues of common interest from everywhere around the world. In this room here, I'm sure you've interacted with people coming from different parts of the world. And I think that's one of the values, at least I draw in the years I've been a member of IEEE. And you've got all this different mix of individuals that you get. You can engage with students, you can engage with young professionals, you can engage with established professionals, mature people in the industry, and even some of those who have retired and have lots of knowledge as professionals can be there and available to you as mentors, and you can connect with them. Academics are also a huge part of our membership organization. Okay, and as I mentioned, there are different groups. If you do not find a group that is of interest to you, guess what? You could actually aim to establish one and then build it out within IEEE. As you see, there are several affinity groups, different chapters that may be of interest to you. Okay, sorry, just again, just a bit of an overview. IEEE organizes very many activities across the year. If you go online, I'm sure that you'll find 2 or 3 events daily in different parts of the world that you could engage in, whether virtually or if it's happening within your locality in person, and then you could go ahead and connect to those. There's lots of opportunities to find different information from the knowledge base that we have at IEEE, and also for you, if you're looking to publish, you could also put some information using the different channels that we have as IEEE. So a huge wealth of resource that is available to you. So what motivated the establishment of the Action for Industry? So IEEE is an organization that has been there for a very long time, but over the years, what we realized, or at least a group realized, is that the membership structure of IEEE had shifted significantly. So from the founding days of IEEE as an organization, and by the way, the initial founders were people who were in industry professionals who came together with the idea of putting together this organization that brings different industry actors together. We have seen that a lot of the offering has been targeted towards academia, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah? So a huge membership base is academics, students, faculty members, which is great. But what we had seen is that the interest from people in industry had been going down. So actually, a recent statistic was about 14% of the members were industry practitioners. So the team that came together at the time was looking to increase that membership, to some extent. So AFI, the Action for Industry Committee, was born, and the idea was to try and bring IEEE closer to the industry by putting together a value proposition that would interest the organizations, companies to have their staff join IEEE. Now, just a small caveat here, we're not looking at companies or businesses joining IEEE, but individuals within those organizations to join IEEE, okay? So that was the intention, and that's what we've been doing as IEEE. That was a Region 8 initiative. So for those of you who are members of IEEE, so you could be proud of this point, that it was an initiative from Region 8, That actually was eventually picked up by the global IEEE organization, and now we have a global committee called the Industry Engagement Committee that is actually looking to address this particular point. So we have a committee that is involved in Action for Industry. So as Mohammed mentioned, I'm a past chair of the committee. Our current chair is Nihel. Nihel is based out of Tunisia. And we have other committee members who are located in different parts of Region 8. So we've got Tony, who is out of Finland, but is looking at Northern Europe. Kostas in Cyprus is focusing on Southern Europe. You've met Mohammed, who just gave the remarks before. He's based in Egypt and supports the committee from North Africa. And Sohaib, who is based in the Middle East, currently is in the UAE, but he's originally from the UK. And he's leading our efforts within the Middle East region. So, and then you also have some corresponding members. I'm a corresponding member, so colleagues who are involved in the committee and support the committee in different ways. The reason why I show you this is, again, if there is interest for you to participate in IEEE committees or activities, you're welcome to join, and we are continuously looking for colleagues that could support these initiatives. All these individuals are volunteers. Some are faculty members, some are industry practitioners, and they give their time to support this initiative within Region 8. This is a committee that is involved in leading, let's say, the plan for industry engagement. However, what we encourage is within our local sections, so IEEE is organized in sections, so within different countries you've got sections. We encourage local ambassadors or industry champions to come and work together with the committee to promote this industry engagement. And the reason why we ask for this is because a local individual within the section is familiar with the context. So we're in South Africa right now, so you understand how the industry operates in South Africa. You've got the contacts within different industry. You know your section members well, both the student branch members, for example, the young professionals and other groups within IEEE, and you could then craft the value proposition that IEEE brings that would bring to that particular section and to the industry within that section. So yesterday we had an interesting discussion, and within South Africa, I think there are some interesting opportunities that we could explore. So another call I put here, for those who are interested to participate in this idea of building out the industry engagement within South Africa, do let me know. I will connect you with your section chair here, and you could begin thinking about how this could be crafted. And we've seen very interesting ways in which this can be done. Because if you think about a Venn diagram, you've got, there's a big student branch, or let's say academic community. You have got the IEEE organization with all that it comes with. You could craft very interesting programs that can work and support the industry engagement. I'd coming up with some win-win sort of propositions that would benefit the industry, the members, and IEEE. Just to share with you some examples, within some sections over the years, we've crafted out partnerships within the local section with organizations that would help the staff within those organizations access some of the resources for continuous professional development within IEEE. We've established partnerships that enable the talent pipeline from the student branch membership within IEEE for some of these organizations. We've established opportunities for experienced professionals within some of these companies to serve as mentors, or create channels where they can serve as mentors for young engineers within the IEEE student branch. So there are many ways in which you could craft this kind of engagement. I think the first step is, first of all, identifying who are the actors within that particular space, and then coming together and then leading this conversation. And then this committee here will, what we basically do is share best practices amongst the different industry ambassadors from each of the sections, and then help them to craft and work any agreements within IEEE to get those partnerships functional. And if you think about it, I mean, what would be the value proposition? Yesterday, when Humphrey presented about the membership development presentation, I mean, for students, I think the value proposition is clear. You know, you've got access to mentors, you join this vibrant community of IEEE, etc. There's all the conferences that they attend. You've got access to IEEE Explore, just to think about it. For a professional, you know, you've got the continuous professional development opportunities. If you remember yesterday, there was the technical resources from IEEE, but also the educational resources. So for individuals who are in organizations who are working for companies, you know, this could be a good channel to access some of these professional development opportunities. You know, conferences like this where, you know, you get to learn about what's going on within your field, those are opportunities for you to grow professionally. You've got e-learning resources, IEEE TV. You know, there's really a lot of resources as a professional you could access from IEEE. And then also leadership opportunities. I mean, volunteering some of these committees and within the entire structure of Region 8 and also in the large IEEE organization or even in the local section, you've got opportunities to engage and build out your leadership capabilities, which translate also for your own personal career development. And I think more importantly, and I think many times for those who are in industry, contributing more than your job. You know, sometimes, especially when you've been involved in, you know, in your professional life, there is interest to give back, to volunteer, to give back the community. So through this IEEE committees, different affinity groups, we create channels for you to get involved, get engaged. We've got SITE, for example, and you know, a lot of professionals have actually found a lot of value by getting engaged in this kind of activities. Okay, just you notice I get passionate about this and I can go for quite a while. So please, if you are interested, reach out to myself. I share there are a number of committee members that are here. We'd be happy to guide you to get engaged within your local section and get involved in Action for Industry. Just to share with you, and I'll flip through the next slides because Mohammed is beckoning me, I need to finish quick. The committee also organizes opportunities for interested ambassadors to get engaged. So we have a network of industry ambassadors. So remember, the industry ambassadors are industry professionals or volunteers within the local section who would like to engage with the industry. So we've got meetings or workshops where we guide the new industry ambassadors on how to engage with the committee and with their local industry, give them the different assets that IEEE provides for you to make the outreach to local industry. You know, and then we organize a number of these meetings that you can see here. We, you know, put out reports and make sure that the handover from one committee or one industry ambassador to the next is smooth. There are various workshops we organize for the ambassadors. Okay, just to share with you some that have happened in the recent past during this particular year. Okay, you can see here Mohammed and has been leading some of the conversations of industry ambassadors. We also have some activities that have been organized where we have had student branch members through the support of the industry ambassador visiting some of the industry players within those different countries and so on and so forth, okay? And the committee also recently started putting out a channel on YouTube where we were able to engage different people in industry and, you know, they are able to share, you know, building to that knowledge base that we talked about earlier. And this is also part of the professional development and also opportunities for, you know, the local industry to engage with the local section. Okay, so these activities that have been done by colleagues here, the YouTube channel is available and I'll share the links if you want to connect to that. You know, you can see some of the materials we've been putting out in the last few years. Okay, so allow me to skip this because Mohammed is beckoning me. We also do some events, industry events. just giving you a snapshot, in a few minutes you'll hear from Vodacom, okay? And these are the kind of activities. So there is a value proposition all around for the section members, for the industry, and to participate and to engage in this activity that we put together. Okay, so one very interesting one I just want to show you that before we leave here is this one here. So we put together a virtual career fair because one of the things we realize is a lot of mobility of talent moving around. So we organized a career fair, and we had a number of companies taking part in this, and also I believe we also have one coming up for Region 8 in the near future. So if you'd like to participate in this one, reach out to us. For the company that would like to tap for talent, we have our student branch members. So these are committed students who are looking for opportunities. For companies that are looking for talent, again, you could put out those calls within that. Okay, so Mohammed, sorry. So please connect with the Action for Industry Committee. We've got various channels there. If you want to take a screen grab of this, you can take a photo of that, and we'd love to explore opportunities to build this IEEE industry connections. And it's not just about sponsorship. There is more that we can build over than just sponsorship, and which is a value between all the different players. With that, Mohammed, thank you very much, and looking forward to interacting with all of you. Thank you.